The noise cancelling game has changed a lot in recent years, and in some ways that a lot of people don't realise. And if you stick around, you will hear what I mean. Anyway, these are new in April 2025. They're called the Bowers Wilkins PX7 S3. The S stands for series, I think. Interestingly, despite the £379 launch day price, these are not the most premium over-ear ANC headphones from Bowers Wilkins. That would be the PX8s. However, these are priced in line with a lot of the fan favorites right now, such as the Bose Quiet Comfort, the Beats Studio Pro, the Sony XM5s, and the Sonos Ace. As it happens, two of my favorite ANC headphones right now are the XM5s from Sony and the Sonos Ace. And to give you a really honest opinion of the sound quality, I filmed my unscripted and unrehearsed reactions to the PX7 S3 sound quality when compared to the Sonos Ace and the Sony XM5s. Here's where it gets different. I actually took the time to burn in the drivers on the PX7s for more than 50 hours straight, and I blasted them at maximum volume. And you might be asking, why? But why? Well, some audiophiles believe that it takes a minimum of 50 hours before they become flexible enough to sound their best. And I want to give you guys my opinions based on these at their best. So that's why. And there was some good news for me regarding burning these drivers in. The PX7 S3 has a battery life that lasts up to 30 hours with ANC on, and also when it runs low, a 15-minute quick charge can deliver an additional 7 hours of power. So I only had to top up the battery a couple of times to complete the burn-in process. Anyway, now let's jump into what separates these visually from the pack. The design on the PX7 S3 is a unique blend of woven material wrapped surfaces, metal surfaces with diamond cut chamfered edges, and minimal use of plastics, giving it that distinct Bowers Wilkins headphone identity. The launch day color options here are canvas white, indigo blue, and anthracite black, which are the ones that I have here, but the indigo blue is definitely my personal favorite. And if you are familiar with the earlier versions of the PX7, you might think that not much has changed. However, quite a lot has changed, so let's run quickly through some of the design upgrades that Bowers Wilkins have made. The PX7 S3s have newly upgraded wear detect sensors. There are now 4 mics on each ear cup instead of 3, and they're positioned more strategically. There's a new redesigned button layout with a new textured pattern on the center button, making it easier to feel and therefore easier to find. The ear cups are replaceable just like before, but now the headband is also replaceable. However, this is said to be replaceable by a professional, so I'm assuming there's a proprietary tool involved in doing that. The overall weight is now 3 grams lighter than the previous model. The depth of the ear cups have been slimmed down. The hangers have also been redesigned. And I really like this about these headphones. They twist inwards and outwards. Some headphones just can't do that. And the entire headphone has been rebalanced to sit more comfortably on your head, thanks to better weight distribution. Now, a couple of things that I personally like here is the use of metals. This gives off that luxurious vibe. I also like this grille section. This is brand new to the PX7 S3. Bowers calls this their annular guard, and this runs right around the ear cups. And actually, this style was carried over from their impressive Bowers Wilkins PI8 in-ear ANC earbuds. And if you are interested, I did review those, and I'll link that video at the end. And I'll just mention now quickly, there are a couple of significant upgrades beneath the surface which affect the sound, and we'll come back to that in the sound section of this video. Anyway, back to the design. The top of the headband is also covered in that tight weave material, which is quite robust. I do like how Bowers Wilkins have stuck to the physical buttons. You've got your volume up and down, the action button on the right ear cup, ANC and ambient toggle button, and power slider on the left ear cup. And that power slider also doubles up as the Bluetooth pairing button. I think some people will agree with this. Sometimes the old ways are the best, and the advantage of physical buttons is you can use these with gloves on. Now, here's something else that's been upgraded, the app functionality. Just like before, it combines all your audio streaming services into one place, which is nice. But it is the new option to manually dial in custom EQs and save them. That's the brand new feature. You can also adjust the sensitivity of the brand new wear detect sensors here. And if you want to, you can remap the quick action button to a voice assistant. I do wish that Bowers would allow you to map a push and hold of this button to wake the assistant instead of sacrificing the ANC toggle. Now, before we get on to how comfortable they are, let me give you a quick look at the carry case. It's reasonably slim. It's a hard shell case with a nice textured surface. Inside you've got this kind of Alcantara texture and a magnetic door for the USB-C to C charging cable, and there's also a USB-C to 3.5mm audio jack. And if you look at the lid, there's a bit of extra padding here to keep everything nice and snug and well protected when thrown in a tightly packed carry-on suitcase or backpack. So when it comes to the Bowers Wilkins PX7 S3, despite the fact Bowers has slimmed down the profile of the ear cups, they have somehow managed to not compromise the space inside. I think they may have placed the driver in a slightly lower position and angled it upwards, but that detail hasn't been confirmed. Anyway, the ear cups seal comfortably around my massive ears, and my ears don't seem to touch the backs as well, so no complaints here from me. The padding is really nice. They use a PE leather here, so no cows were killed in the making of these headphones. The padding on the headband is also more than enough for me. And the fact that the headband is removable is a big deal. So if it ever does start to get uncomfortable, you've always got the option to just change it, whereas some other headphones, you just can't do that. Now, when I first put these on straight out of the box, the grip strength on the headband is best described as firm. So you could definitely use these for running or for the gym. But overall, for me personally, the PX7 S3 is very comfortable, and even during longer listening sessions, I didn't experience any uncomfortable pressure points across the top of my head or near my temples or over my ears. The weight of the headphones is perfect, it's not an issue at all. Now, if I was to nitpick the comfort on these headphones, I did notice some pressure when I tested these whilst wearing glasses. I was editing a video on my computer for quite a long time, and I started to notice a bit of pressure near the temples. And I think maybe this could be more noticeable to me, as I don't often wear glasses at all. I honestly only wear these for the blue blocking side of things. I'm not sure how I even ended up with these. I've got a feeling the optician tricked me, and he was a good salesman too. I ended up with 2 pairs. Anyway, remember how I said there were more mics than before? Well, there's actually mics inside the ear cups now, so it can measure noise reaching your ears from the outside to further improve the ANC. But then also it's important to remember some of these mics are used for voice pickup when you're on phone calls. So let's do a quick test of the microphones, and then we'll get into noise cancelling comparison, and then we'll get into the sound quality section.
So this is the call quality you can expect on the PX7 S3. Do keep in mind there are more mics now, so it should be better than ever, but this is in a quiet space. Now let's introduce some noise. So I've got some loud road noise just to the right hand side of me. How is my voice? Can you even hear that noise? Let me know. And now let's introduce some wind. Okay, so now I've got wind rushing past the right ear cup, now the left ear cup, now the right ear cup. So this kind of emulates walking down a busy street on a windy day. That concludes the mic test.
This is the Sonos Ace ambient pass-through mode. This is passive noise cancelling. And this is active noise cancelling. This is the ambient pass-through mode on the XM5s. This is passive noise cancelling. This is the XM5s with noise cancelling on. This is the ambient pass-through mode on the PX7 S3. This is the passive noise cancelling. And this is the active noise cancelling. Okay, before we get into the sound quality opinions, those few significant upgrades that I mentioned earlier, we should probably talk about those because they massively improved the sound. So the PX7 S3 used the same biocellulose cones as the previous model, only now the driver unit's chassis, the voice coil, the magnet, and the suspension are all brand new and improved. And Bowers also throw in a separate DSP and ADI headphone amp to further enhance the sound reproduction. And on top of that, the codecs are even better now. So you still get the standard SBC and AAC, which is still the optimal codecs for Apple devices. And there is a Bluetooth LE update in the pipeline. But here's where you can really maximize the sound quality on these. If you happen to own a Snapdragon phone, tablet, or even a laptop, you can make use of aptX Adaptive and aptX Lossless. Compared to the previous PX7, the supported audio resolution has increased from 24-bit 48 kHz to 24-bit 96 kilohertz. But just to explain this simply, the faster the connection between your device and the headphones, the more audio data can be sent, and more data equals more detail and higher fidelity audio. And even if you don't have a Snapdragon device, you can use the USB-C to headphone jack cable to get that 24-bit 96 kilohertz. So on paper, this is a winning formula, especially when combined with the redesigned drivers. Well, now it's time. Let's see. Okay, here's how we're going to do this. 3 headphones, 3 genres. I'm going to listen first on the Sony and the Sonos, and then I'll give you my opinions on the Bowers in comparison. And then hopefully that should give me a good idea of where the strengths are for the PX7 S3. So yeah, let's do this. And I will be using Tidal and the best codecs that I can with these headphones. Okay, so here's my opinions based on the classical genre with lots of instruments, lots of female and male vocals. The soundstage on all 3 of these headphones are fantastic. The focus here for the Bowers, to me, seems to be the vocal frequency and the high frequencies. You do get a bit more bass by default out of the other 2, but that's not to say that that isn't intentional. Maybe that's how Bowers want it to be. So now let's try out a bass heavy track. Okay, when it comes to bass compared to the other 2, these can hold their own, but they're not quite as bassy as the Sonys or the Sonos Ace. However, that clarity really shines through again. You get a bit more pop in the mids and high frequencies, and the mid bass is really nice too, but the actual deep bass, the sub bass, is a bit more on the other 2. And there is something important to remember. You can EQ the Bowers & Wilkins now, which is really nice, and save a preset. So if you wanted to, you could create a bass boost preset. Okay, now let's test out a little bit of rock music and see how they handle there. Okay, so if there's one genre where the Bowers & Wilkins seem to outperform the other 2, it is in the rock genre, probably largely because of the mid to high frequency focus that these have. Also, the soundstage is fantastic, just like the other 2, but these seem to be better tuned for rock straight out of the box. But what's interesting though is with these headphones, I do believe the Bowers have kind of pulled their punches a little bit because they do have the PX7 S3 in the works. So that leads me to believe that they're saving some of the good stuff specifically for those headphones. So in theory, if the S7s compete with the top tier, then maybe the PX8s might be the flagship ANC headphone killer to keep an eye on. So listen here, if you like the sound of the PX7 S3, then there will be affiliate links below this video. You might also want to take a look at the Bowers & Wilkins PI8 ANC earbuds, because those earbuds are awesome and they have a feature that's very unique and it's amazing for when you're traveling, and very few other earbuds have that feature. That thumbnail's on screen right now if you want to check that out. Now listen, whenever I get to the end of these videos I say please subscribe, but normally what happens is this. So I'm not going to ask you to subscribe this time. Just do me a favor. If you liked the video, let me know, and that's it. And if you did subscribe, well, now you're one of the finest subscribers known to man, and I will see you in the next one.